My wife left me for my best friend right before Thanksgiving dinner. A story of betrayal, turkey, and unexpected redemption. The knock that changed everything. The turkey had been in the oven for exactly 47 minutes when I heard the knock at the door. Not a friendly knock. Not the eager rap of my mother-in-law arriving early with her famous pecan pie, or the rhythmic pattern my brother Dave used since we were kids. This was different. 3 sharp, deliberate strikes against the heavy oak, like someone trying to wake the dead. I checked my watch. 2:47 p.m., November 28th. The Detroit sky outside our ranch house in Royal Oak was already the color of old dishwater, heavy with snow that had been promised for 3 days. I wiped my hands on my Kiss the Cook apron, Sarah's joke from 3 Thanksgivings ago, and walked toward the door. The house smelled of sage and rosemary, of butter-basted skin and the promise of gathering. I'd spent 3 days preparing. The turkey was a 22-pound beast from Eastern Market, brined for 36 hours. The stuffing was my grandmother's recipe from Kentucky, carried north when my family migrated to Michigan for the auto industry in the 70s. 3 kinds of potatoes, cranberry sauce from actual cranberries, green bean casserole. Sarah would be back from her errand by then. Our guests, my best friend Marcus, his girlfriend, my parents from Toledo, Sarah's sister from Chicago, would arrive at 5. Everything was under control. 3 sharp knocks. I opened the door. Marcus stood on the porch in a thin charcoal sweater, no coat, hands in his pockets, shoulders hunched against the cold. Behind him, at the curb, I saw Sarah's silver Honda Accord. She was in the driver's seat, looking straight ahead through the windshield, not at the house, not at me. "Marcus," I said, "you're early, way early. The turkey's not even." "Ben," he said, and something in his voice stopped me. "What's going on?" He pulled his hands from his pockets. He was holding an envelope. White. My name in Sarah's handwriting, the careful cursive from her Catholic school in Grand Rapids. "Ben," Marcus said again, his eyes wet. Marcus Chen, who I'd watched bench press 250 at the YMCA in downtown Detroit, who'd talked down a drunk at a Tigers game without raising his voice, who'd stood as my best man at St. Mary's in Ferndale 8 years ago. "She's leaving me," I said. It wasn't a question. "Ben, He held out the envelope. "She asked me to give you this. She couldn't face you, not after she told me. About us, about her and me." The world didn't stop. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A car alarm chirped. The furnace cycled on with its familiar groan. And I stood in the doorway of the house I'd spent 8 years making into a home, wearing a stupid apron, while my best friend told me he'd been sleeping with my wife. "How long?" "6 months," he said. "Maybe more. It started after the promotion. When you got passed over at Ford. You were so angry, Ben, so closed off. She came to me because she needed someone to talk to. And then you started sleeping with her." "Ben, get off my porch. Please, the letter, get off my porch." My voice remained level, calm, almost conversational. But Marcus flinched as if I'd struck him. He set the envelope on the welcome mat and backed away. "Ben, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Tell her she forgot the turkey baster. It's in the drawer next to the stove." I closed the door. I didn't lock it. Thinking was suddenly beyond me. I walked to the kitchen, past the dining room where the table was set with Sarah's grandmother's china, the cloth napkins we'd ironed last night while listening to Taylor Swift and arguing about whether the lyrics were genius or just clever. I walked to the oven and opened it. The turkey sat there, golden already, the skin tightening and browning. I'd been so proud of it this morning. So stupidly proud of a dead bird. I closed the oven, set the timer. Some autopilot refused to acknowledge the smoking crater where my life had been 30 seconds ago. My hand shook as I opened the envelope. Ben, I know there is nothing I can write that will make this right. I know you will hate me and Marcus and everything about the life we've built. I know your heart, Ben. I've held it for 8 years. I've watched you build walls when you're hurt. And I've watched you turn that hurt into a fortress that keeps everyone out. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking you to know this was never about you failing me. This was about me failing myself. About waking up at 34 and realizing I'd spent my entire adult life being who everyone expected me to be. Your wife, the good daughter, the reliable sister, the cheerful nurse, and never once asking who I wanted to be. Marcus saw me. He saw the parts I'd hidden so well I sometimes forgot they existed. The ambitious parts, the restless parts. The parts that wanted more than a ranch house in Royal Oak and a husband who loved me so completely, I sometimes felt erased by the weight of it. I know how that sounds: cruel, selfish, ungrateful. It is all of those things. But Ben, I was dying. Slowly, quietly, politely dying in the life we'd made. And when Marcus looked at me, he didn't see Sarah the wife, Sarah the nurse. He saw Sarah. Just Sarah. And I was so hungry to be seen that I did the unthinkable. I'm not going to make excuses about the timing. I know what day it is. I know about the turkey and your parents and the table set with my grandmother's plates. I know I've chosen the most devastating moment possible to destroy everything. Maybe that's the cruelest part, or maybe it's the only honest part. I've been pretending for so long that one more performance, one more perfect Thanksgiving would have killed me faster than this confession. I'm going to Chicago with Marcus. His sister has an apartment there. I'm asking you not to find us. Not because I fear what you'll do, but because I know what you'll do. You'll forgive me. You'll try to understand. You'll make it about your failings and your walls. And Ben, I can't survive your goodness right now. I can't survive the way you love because it makes my smallness feel like a crime against nature. The house is yours. I've spoken to a lawyer. The car is in your name. The savings. I've taken half. More than I deserve, but less than I'm entitled to. You can fight me, and you'd win. But I'm hoping you won't. I'm hoping you'll take that fortress-building energy and turn it towards something that matters more than punishing me. I loved you. I love you still, in the way that you can love someone and know you're poison to them. Please believe the years we had were real, even if the ending is a lie. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sarah. I read it 3 times, folded it carefully, placed it on the counter next to the bowl of cranberries. The oven timer beeped. 47 minutes had passed. I opened the oven, basted the turkey, closed it again. Set the timer for 30 more minutes. Then I walked to the refrigerator, took out the 6-pack of Bell's Two-Hearted Ale I'd been saving for after dinner, and sat at the kitchen table, the table where Sarah and I had eaten 1,000 breakfasts, planned our future, dissected our past. Where she'd told me last spring she was tired, and I'd made her tea and rubbed her shoulders and never once asked what she was tired of. I opened the first beer. It was 3:15 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, and I was alone in a house that smelled like someone else's happiness. Oh, Chapter 1. The Guests Who Didn't Come. By 4:30, I'd finished 3 beers and the turkey was perfect. 165 in the breast. 175 in the thigh. The skin was the color of a sunset over Lake Michigan, crisp and lacquered. It rested on the counter, tinted with foil, sending up curls of aromatic steam. I'd made 3 decisions. 1. I wasn't calling my parents. If they showed up at 5, they'd find out then. If they didn't, well, my mother had been threatening to skip Thanksgiving for years, complaining about the drive from Toledo, the traffic on I-75, the way Sarah always made her feel like a guest in her son's house. 2. I wasn't calling Sarah's sister Rachel in Chicago. Let her drive 4 hours and find an empty house or carnage. Sarah had chosen the timing. Let her deal with the consequences. 3. I was eating that goddamn turkey. The turkey had become symbolic. It represented everything Sarah had dismissed. The careful work, the patient building, the belief that love was constructed day by day, meal by meal, year by year. If I threw it out, I'd be admitting those years were garbage, that the construction was a fool's errand. I was not a fool. I was a man who had loved his wife, a good husband, never hit her, never cheated, never gambled our savings, fixed the leaky faucet, learned to cook because she hated it, sat through her mother's rants and her sister's dramas with patience. I'd built a fortress, yes, but around her as much as around myself. I'd thought that was love. The 4th beer went down easier. I was maintaining, as my father would say, keeping a steady altitude. The goal was not oblivion. The goal was continuation. At 4:47, my phone buzzed. My mother, running late. Traffic bad near Monroe. Be there by 5:30. Dad wants to know if you need ice. I typed back, don't need ice. Don't come. Deleted it. Typed, come if you want. Things are complicated. Deleted that too. Finally sent, ice would be great. See you soon. I put the phone face down. Let them come. Let them see. I was suddenly eager for witnesses. The private pain felt too heavy to carry alone. I needed it distributed, shared, made communal. That's what Thanksgiving was for, wasn't it? The distribution of abundance. Let them share this. At 5:15, the doorbell rang. I was on my 5th beer, edges softened. I walked to the door with careful precision. It wasn't my parents. It was Rachel, Sarah's sister, standing on the porch with a bottle of wine and a confused expression. Younger than Sarah by 4 years, still single, still working the same nonprofit job in Chicago since graduating from Northwestern. She had Sarah's cheekbones but not her warmth, a sharpness that always made her look like she was evaluating something and finding it wanting. "Ben," she said, "where's Sarah? Her car's not here." "Come in," I said. "Have a beer. I'm way ahead of you." She stepped inside, hesitating at the threshold. "Ben, what's going on? You look... Have you been drinking?" "It's Thanksgiving, Rachel. It's a drinking holiday." "Where's my sister?" I walked to the kitchen. She followed, boots clicking on hardwood. I heard her stop at the dining room doorway, taking in the table set for 8, candles unlit, empty chairs. "Ben," she said, voice changed. Under the sharpness, fear, recognition. "What happened?" I pulled another beer from the refrigerator, offered it. She shook her head. I opened it for myself. "Your sister has left me for Marcus Chen, best man at our wedding. The guy who said I was the luckiest man in Michigan. Turns out he was also the luckiest man in Michigan, at least for the last 6 months. They drove to Chicago together. Today, right before dinner, she left me a letter. It's on the counter." Rachel didn't move. She stood in the doorway, wine bottle forgotten, eyes moving from turkey to table to letter to me. I watched her process it, watched information rearrange her face like a puzzle solved in real time. You're lying. But she didn't sound sure. Read the letter. I don't need to read. Read the letter, Rachel. I hadn't meant to shout. The beer. The hours alone with my thoughts, pressure building without release. She flinched, and I saw pity in her eyes. Worse than anger. Anger I could meet. Pity slid off me like water, leaving me soaked and shivering. She walked to the counter, picked up the letter, read it while I drank my beer and watched the turkey sweat under its foil. When she finished, she set it down carefully. Ben, she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. Sarah's good at secrets. 8 years of pretending to be happy. That's a lot of practice. She wasn't pretending. Not all the time. Ben, I've seen you two together. What you've seen was real, I said. That's the fucked up part. What you've seen was real. What I felt was real. What she felt. Apparently that was real too. Just not the same real. Not a real that included staying. Not a real that included telling me the truth before she fucked my best friend. Ben, do you want some turkey? It's very good. I used the brine with apple cider this year. Sarah thought it was too sweet, but I think it balances the savory. Probably the best turkey I've ever made. And I'm going to eat it. Alone if I have to, but I'd prefer not to. So stay or go, Rachel, but make a decision. The food's getting cold. She stared at me. I stared back. My phone buzzed. My mother. Almost there. Your father had to pee twice already. Old man bladder. Rachel set down her wine. She walked to the cabinet where we kept the glasses, the ones Sarah had registered for at Macy's. She took out 2, poured wine into one, took the beer from my hand and poured it into the other. I'm staying, she said, but we're not eating alone. Call your parents. Tell them to hurry. You shouldn't be alone right now, Ben. None of us should. I don't want. I know you don't want. That's not the same as not needing. She picked up my phone, found my mother's contact, pressed call. I heard my mother's voice, tinny and confused through the speaker. Rachel took the phone into the other room, speaking in low tones, and I was left with the turkey and the empty kitchen and the terrifying realization that I was about to have Thanksgiving dinner with my family, my almost ex-sister-in-law, and a broken heart I had no idea how to conceal. Chapter 2. The dinner that shouldn't have happened. My parents arrived at 5:45. My mother in her good coat with a fur collar from Perrysburg. My father in his lion's cap and windbreaker. They came through the door with the energy of survivors, my mother talking about traffic near the Ohio border, my father sniffing the air with his appreciative grunt. Then they saw Rachel's face. Then they saw mine. Benjamin, my mother said, voice dropping into bad news register. What's wrong? Where's Sarah? Rachel stepped in, smooth and practiced. Sarah's not feeling well. She had to go to the hospital. Work emergency. She's a nurse. They always need her. She asked us to start without her. Might be very late, or not make it at all. The lie was so plausible, I almost believed it myself. My mother accepted it with relief, prepared for catastrophe, received only inconvenience. My father grunted and moved toward the television, searching for the Lions game, but my mother was not easily dismissed. She watched me carve the turkey, eyes narrowing at the 2 large portions, the too steady hand, the way I kept my face turned toward the bird. She watched me serve stuffing, potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce. She watched me sit at the head of the table, Sarah's chair, and raise my glass in a toast no one had suggested. To absent friends, I said, and present ones, and turkeys that died for our sins. Ben, Rachel said quietly. Sorry, to Maudlin, to Thanksgiving, to gratitude, to the things we have, rather than the things we've lost. My father raised his water glass. To Thanksgiving, he said, and drank, and returned to the game. The Lions were losing, as expected. Some things remained constant. The dinner was surreal. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing, my mother's scrutiny like a heat lamp on my neck. Rachel made conversation with desperate energy, asking my father about his retirement from the GM plant, my mother about her book club, filling silences with words like sandbags against a flood. I responded when spoken to. I was a host, competent, fine, and underneath I was screaming. Every bite tasted of ash. Every swallow soured in my stomach. The table, set for 8, with 4 empty chairs like accusations. Sarah's chair, Marcus's chair, the chair where his girlfriend would have sat, the woman I'd never met because Sarah always made excuses about next time. The chair where my brother Dave should have been, except Dave was in Denver this year with his girlfriend's family, the first Thanksgiving he'd missed since his divorce. I kept eating, kept drinking, kept being fine. At 7:30, my mother cornered me in the kitchen while I loaded the dishwasher. She had that look, the one that preceded every important conversation of my childhood. The one that meant she'd been observing, analyzing, and was ready to deliver findings. Benjamin, she said, tell me what really happened to Sarah. I kept loading plates. The china was fragile, old, inherited. I handled it with exaggerated care. She's at the hospital, Mom. Rachel told you. Rachel lied. I know a crisis call tone when I hear one. Your wife is not at the hospital. Your wife has left you, and you've been drinking since before we arrived. And you're pretending so hard I'm surprised you haven't cracked in half. I set down the plate, turned to face her. She was smaller than I remembered, age compressing her, but her eyes remained the same sharp blue, the same penetrating intelligence that had guided me through childhood illnesses, adolescent heartbreaks, my grandmother's death when I was 16. She left me for Marcus, I said. Today, right before dinner, she wrote me a letter. He delivered it. They're in Chicago now. Happy Thanksgiving. My mother's face didn't change. Not immediately. She had that ability, inherited from her own mother, of receiving bad news with a stillness that made her seem carved from stone. Then slowly, the stone warmed. Her eyes softened, her mouth relaxed. Oh, Benjamin, she said. Oh, my baby. I'm not a baby, Mom. I'm 36. I'm a man whose wife left him for his best friend. I'm not a baby. No, she agreed. You're not. But you're my baby, and you're hurting, and I don't know how to help you. There's no help. There's just this. The turkey was good, right? The turkey was excellent. The turkey doesn't matter. It matters to me. It matters that I made something good today. Even if everything else is shit, the turkey was good. She stepped closer, put her hand on my arm, the way she had when I was small and the world was too large and too loud. What do you need? What can we do? I looked at her. My mother, who'd driven 2 hours through holiday traffic to sit at a table with a broken son and pretend everything was normal. Who'd known somehow, from the moment she walked in, that the disaster was real and ongoing. I need you to stay, I said. I need you to sit in the living room and watch the game with Dad and let me pretend for a few more hours that this is a normal Thanksgiving. I need you to not ask me how I'm feeling or what I'm going to do or whether I saw the signs. I need you to just be here and be normal and let me fall apart later, when I'm alone, when it's safe. Ben, please, Mom. I can't do the therapy conversation right now. I can't do the everything happens for a reason conversation. I just need the room to be full. I need the chairs to not be empty, even if the people in them are lying to each other about why they're here. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded once and squeezed my arm. Okay, we'll stay. We'll watch the game. We'll eat pie when you're ready. We'll be normal. Thank you. But Benjamin, when you're ready to not be normal, when you're ready to fall apart, you call me. You don't do it alone. You don't build your fortress so high that no one can reach you. That's not strength. That's just a different kind of prison. She walked back to the living room, leaving me with the dishwasher and the remnants of dinner and the crushing weight of gratitude. Gratitude for my mother, who saw through me and stayed anyway. Gratitude for Rachel, who lied to protect me and stayed to witness me. Gratitude for the small miracle of people who chose to be present when presence was all they had to offer. I finished loading the dishwasher, poured another beer, walked into the living room and sat on the couch between my father and Rachel and watched the Lions lose their annual Thanksgiving game and let the normalcy wash over me like a tide that couldn't reach the depths where I was drowning. Chapter 3: The Winter of Recovery. My parents left at 10. Rachel stayed the night, then drove back to Chicago the next morning with promises to call, to check in, to be around. The house was truly empty then, echoing with every sound. I spent the weekend in motion, cleaned things that didn't need cleaning, organized closets that had been organized, threw away items with violent decisiveness. Sarah's leftover shampoo, her perfume on the dresser, the Valentine's card with two old people holding hands and a message about growing old together. I found in the back of her closet a box I didn't recognize. Cardboard, unlabeled, dusty. Inside, notebooks. Dozens of them, filled with her handwriting, dating back to before I knew her. Journals, her private thoughts, her unfiltered self. I shouldn't have read them. Privacy is privacy, even when the person has left you. But I was clawing for understanding, for any narrative that would make the chaos coherent. I read enough. The ambitious Sarah, the restless Sarah, the Sarah who'd given up painting to become a nurse, who'd moved to Detroit to be with me when I got the job at Ford, who'd buried her desires under the weight of being good, being reliable, being mine. And then, in the most recent notebook, entries about Marcus. Not lust, not excitement, confusion, guilt. A desperate question. Who am I when I'm not someone's wife? She didn't know. That was the tragedy. She thought Marcus could tell her. She thought leaving me would reveal her true self, like removing a mask. She didn't understand that the mask had become the face, that the self is constructed, built choice by choice, day by day, the way I'd built the turkey and the marriage and the life she found suffocating. I put the notebooks back in the box, put the box in the basement. I would not use them against her. But I would remember, her leaving was not about my failings. It was about her own lostness, her desperate search for a self that had never fully existed. On Sunday night, I called my brother Dave in Denver. "Ben," he said, "how was Thanksgiving?" "Sarah left me," I said. No preamble, no softening. "For Marcus, on Thanksgiving. Right before dinner. They're in Chicago now." Silence. Then, "Ben, Jesus, I'm getting on a plane. I'll be there tomorrow." "No, don't. I need to figure this out alone, for now. I need to know I can stand on my own before I let anyone prop me up." That's pride. You don't have to do this alone. I know I don't have to. I want to. Just let me be alone, Dave. Let me find out what I'm made of. He argued, of course. He was my brother. He'd fought my battles in elementary school, covered for me with our parents, bailed me out of more trouble than I could remember. But eventually he accepted my terms. Check in every day, answer the phone. If I didn't answer for 24 hours, he was getting on a plane. Deal, I said. And Ben, Marcus is dead to me. Whatever happens, he's dead. I know, I said, but I didn't feel the satisfaction I expected. Marcus was not dead to me. He was wounded to me, betrayed to me. As much a victim of Sarah's confusion as I was, though he'd chosen his victimhood while mine had been thrust upon him. I didn't forgive him. I didn't excuse him. But I couldn't hate him with Dave's purity. Maybe that was just the complexity of loving someone for 8 years, even when they failed you. I went to work on Monday. Ford's Rouge plant, where I'd been a quality engineer for 12 years since I was 24 and fresh out of Kettering University. The plant was vast, loud, relentless. I'd been passed over for promotion last spring, the event Marcus claimed had started Sarah's drift. The promotion had gone to Patricia Okonkwo, who'd joined 3 years after me and navigated the politics with a skill I envied. I saw Patricia that Monday, in the hallway near the quality lab. She stopped when she saw me, her face doing the quick calculation people do when they encounter someone who's been through something visible and recent. Ben, she said, how was your Thanksgiving? Memorable, I said. Yours? Quiet, just me and my sister. We ordered Chinese and watched the parade. Sounds perfect. She hesitated. We were not friends. We were colleagues who had competed for the same advancement, civil in meetings, professional in email. But something in my voice, my face, the way I stood like a man who'd forgotten how to walk, made her pause. Ben, she said, are you okay? It was the question everyone asked, meaningless through repetition. But Patricia asked it differently, not expecting polite deflection, but with genuine curiosity, willingness to hear a real answer. No, I said, I'm not okay. My wife left me on Thanksgiving for my best friend. I'm about as far from okay as I've ever been. Her eyes widened, then she smiled. Not mocking, sad. The smile of someone who recognized the territory. I'm sorry, she said. That's a special kind of hell. The holiday betrayal. The double whammy. I'm sorry, Ben. Thank you, I said, and I meant it. The acknowledgement felt more valuable than sympathy. The recognition that my pain was specific and real, not just another entry in the universal catalog of human suffering. If you need anything, she said. Time off, coverage on a project, someone to get drunk with after work. I'm around. I've been through some things too. The offer stands. She walked away, leaving me with the unexpected gift of her kindness. I went to my desk, my computer. The reports and metrics that had filled my professional life for a decade. They were unchanged. The world was unchanged. The plant produced vehicles, the metrics accumulated, the work continued. My personal catastrophe was a ripple, not a wave. It changed nothing except me. I worked until 6, drove home through the dark, Detroit streets slick with early winter. The city glowing with Christmas decorations that had appeared overnight, as if Thanksgiving had been merely a portal to the next season. I stopped at a grocery store, bought frozen dinners and beer and ingredients for another turkey, though I had no intention of cooking it. I just needed to know I could, that the skill hadn't left me with the marriage. At home, I ate standing at the kitchen counter, watched television without seeing it. Went to bed at 10, in the bed Sarah and I had shared, and lay awake until 2, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle around me like a ship sinking into deep water. This was the pattern of the days that followed. Work, home, sleep, repeat. Minimal functioning of a man who'd lost his center, but not his capacity for motion. I talked to Dave every evening, brief conversations where he updated me on his life, and I offered minimal updates on mine. I talked to Rachel once a week, longer conversations about her work, her dating disasters, her complicated feelings about her sister's choices. I talked to Denise Hartley, the lawyer, who reported that Sarah had retained counsel and was requesting mediation. She wants to settle quickly, Denise said. That's unusual. Most people want to fight, at least at first. She's not angry, I said. She's guilty. Guilty people want to resolve things quickly, pay their debt, move on. And you? Are you angry? I don't know what I am. Most days I'm nothing, numb. Then something will remind me, a song, a smell, the way light hits the kitchen at a certain hour, and I'll feel everything at once. Anger, grief, confusion, love, like being electrocuted by memory. That's normal, Denise said. That's the process. The numbness protects you until you're ready to feel. Then the feeling protects you until you're ready to act. Then the action protects you until you're ready to heal. How long does it take? Longer than you want, shorter than you fear. I hung up and went back to my minimal functioning. December arrived, cold and bright, the city transforming into lights and decorations that felt like mockery. I avoided holiday parties, made excuses about family obligations, spent Christmas Eve alone with a frozen pizza and bourbon, watching It's a Wonderful Life and crying at the end because I no longer believed every life was wonderful, that every man's existence mattered to someone. But I was still here, still waking, working, eating, breathing. The fortress Sarah had described in her letter, the walls that kept everyone out, were also keeping me in. Safe, if not happy. Alive, if not living. January in Michigan is a test of endurance. The cold descends like judgment. Skies turn the color of old metal. The city retreats indoors, hibernating until spring offers reprieve. I retreated further than most. My social life reduced to work interactions and phone calls, weekends spent in the house, cleaning and organizing and avoiding places that carried Sarah's memory. But the world intrudes, even on the wounded. In mid-January, Patricia invited me to coffee. Not a date, just coffee, near the plant, during a break. I accepted because I couldn't think of a reason to refuse, because her kindness in November had lingered like a promise I hadn't known I wanted fulfilled. We met at a Starbucks in Dearborn, near the Fairlane Town Center, surrounded by auto workers and office drones and students. Patricia was already there at a corner table, working on a laptop with the focused intensity that had probably earned her the promotion I'd wanted. Ben, she said, looking up, you look better. Not good, but better. High praise, I said. I'll take it. She closed her laptop. I have a proposition. I'm starting a project at work, a new quality initiative for the electric vehicle line. I need someone with experience, someone I can trust, someone who won't try to undermine me because I got the promotion they wanted. That's you, Ben. You're qualified, competent, and I don't think you care enough about advancement right now to sabotage me. I stared at her. That's your pitch? Work with me because you're too broken to be ambitious? She laughed, a full laugh that drew glances. No, my pitch is, work with me because you're good at this, and having something to focus on might help you, and I could use the help. The broken part is just context. I know where you are. I've been there. Not the same circumstances, but the same territory. The land of why bother. What happened to you? She was quiet, stirring her coffee, though it was black and needed no stirring. My brother died 3 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver. I was the one who identified the body. I spent a year in that territory, Ben. The numb place. The why bother place. Work saved me. Not because it mattered, but because it gave me structure when everything else had collapsed. I'm offering you structure. Take it or leave it. I took it. Not because I believed her story would be my story, not because I thought work would save me, but because she was offering something specific and concrete in a world that had become vague and abstract. A task, a goal, a reason to show up that wasn't just survival. The project consumed the next 3 months. Electric vehicle quality metrics, supply chain integration, the complexity of translating Ford's century of combustion expertise into the new language of batteries and motors. Patricia was demanding, precise, impatient with mediocrity, but fair in a way that made her demands feel like respect rather than exploitation. We worked late, often, ordering dinner in the conference room, debating approaches, celebrating small victories. I learned her story in fragments. The brother, the grief, the therapy, the slow reconstruction of a life blown apart. She learned mine. Sarah, Marcus, the Thanksgiving betrayal, the grinding process of divorce. By March, we were friends, real friends. She invited me to her apartment in Ann Arbor, a small place filled with books and plants and evidence of a life carefully rebuilt. I invited her to the house in Royal Oak, which I'd finally started to think of as mine. The Sarah remnant slowly cleared away, replaced with my own preferences. "You're healing," she said one evening, standing in my kitchen while I cooked pasta. "I can see it. You're not fine yet, but you're not broken anymore. You're cracked, mending." Is that visible? To people who know what to look for, to people who've been there. I turned from the stove, looked at her. Patricia Okonkwo, who'd beaten me for a promotion and then offered me salvation. Who'd seen my pain without exploiting it. Who'd offered structure without demanding gratitude. "Why did you really help me?" I asked. "Not the project reason, the real reason." She leaned against the counter, considering. "Because you were kind to me," she said finally. "After the promotion, when I knew you were angry and disappointed, you were still kind. You congratulated me. You helped me transition into the role. You didn't make it personal, even though it was personal." I remembered that. When I saw you in the hallway in November, looking like a ghost, I remembered that kindness. I wanted to return it. That's very circular. Most good things are. Kindness begets kindness. Pain begets pain. The question is which cycle you choose to continue. I served the pasta. We ate at the kitchen table, the one where Sarah and I had shared 1,000 meals, and for the first time, it didn't feel like a shrine. It felt like a table, a place where people sat and ate and talked, where life continued, changed, grew. That night, Patricia kissed me at the door. Not passionately, not with promise, just a gentle press of lips that said, "I'm here, and you're here, and maybe that's enough for now." It wasn't a beginning. It wasn't an ending. It was just a moment, one of many, in the long winter of rebuilding. Chapter 4. The Reckoning. April arrived with the sudden beauty of Michigan spring. Snow melted into mud. Trees erupted into green. The city shook off hibernation with festivals and markets and collective relief. My divorce was finalized in the second week of April. A quiet proceeding that took less than an hour. Division of assets clean and fair. The house remaining mine. Savings split. Marriage dissolved with bureaucratic efficiency. Sarah was not there. Her attorney represented her. I sat in the courtroom with Denise Hartley, signed the papers, walked out into sunlight feeling lighter than expected. Not happy, not relieved, just completed. A chapter closed whether I was ready or not. I called Dave from the courthouse steps. "It's done," I said. "Good. Now come to Denver. Spend a week. Let Jessica and me show you what mountains look like when they're not covered in snow." I went. I needed to be somewhere else, to see something different, to break the pattern of Royal Oak and Ford and the life that had become my cage. Jessica was warm and welcoming, a kindergarten teacher with infinite patience and a laugh that filled rooms. Dave was Dave, gruff and protective and present in a way that made me remember why we'd been close as children, why we drifted as adults, why we were finding our way back. They showed me the Rockies, the Red Rocks, craft breweries, and hiking trails, and the particular beauty of Denver in spring. I hiked until my legs ached, drank until my head spun, talked until my voice grew hoarse. I told them about Patricia, the tentative friendship that might be becoming more, the uncertainty of moving forward when the past still cast long shadows. "Do you love her?" Dave asked. One night on their balcony, city lights spread below like a circuit board. "I don't know," I said. "I know I like her. I know she makes me feel like myself rather than like the person I was trying to be. I know that when I'm with her, I don't think about Sarah every minute." Is that love, or is that just recovery? "Maybe they're the same thing," Dave said. "Maybe love is just finding someone who helps you recover from everything else." I returned to Michigan in late April, tanned and tired and somehow more solid than when I'd left. Patricia met me at the airport, a surprise I hadn't expected, waiting at baggage claim with a sign that said Benjamin in her precise handwriting. "You're supposed to be at work," I said, hugging her. I took the afternoon off. Some things are more important than electric vehicle metrics. She drove me home to the house in Royal Oak, which she'd cleaned and stocked with groceries while I was away. A small thing, a domestic thing, but it felt like a declaration. I'm here. I'm staying. I'm choosing this. That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize, Chicago area code. I almost ignored it, almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Hello? Ben." A voice I knew, changed but recognizable. Sarah's voice, thinner than I remembered, uncertain. "Ben, it's me." I stood up, walked to the edge of the porch, away from Patricia's curious gaze. "Sarah, I know I shouldn't call. I know I have no right. But Ben, I needed to hear your voice. I needed to know you're okay." "Why?" "Because I'm not. Because I made a mistake, Ben. A terrible, irreversible mistake. Marcus and it didn't work. It was never going to work. He didn't know me. He knew an idea of me. And when the idea met the reality, Sarah!" I kept my voice level, though my heart was hammering. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to come back. Because I want to try again. Because I finally understand what I threw away, and I know it's probably too late. But I have to ask. I have to know if there's any chance, any possibility." I looked at Patricia sitting on the porch swing, watching me with concern and patience. I looked at the house, my house, the life I'd rebuilt from the wreckage. I looked at the sky, the Michigan sky, wide and changing and full of summer's promise. "Sarah," I said. I'm sorry you're hurting. I truly am. But there is no coming back. Not to me. Not to us. What we had was real. And it was good. And you destroyed it. Not because I failed you. Not because of my fortress or my walls or any of the reasons you gave in your letter. You destroyed it because you chose to. And I have spent 6 months rebuilding my life from the pieces you left. I'm not going to tear it down because you're lonely. Ben, please. No, I'm going to hang up now. I'm going to go back to my porch and my friend and my evening. I'm going to keep living the life you didn't want. And Sarah, I hope you find what you're looking for. But it's not here. It was never here. It was something you had to build, not something you had to find. I hung up. I turned off the phone. I walked back to the porch and sat beside Patricia and told her what had happened and let her hold me while the sun disappeared and the stars came out, one by one, indifferent and eternal. Chapter 5. The Thanksgiving That Came Again. November arrived with the inevitability of calendar and season. A year had passed since the knock on the door, since the letter, since the turkey I'd eaten alone while my heart broke in silence. The house in Royal Oak was fully mine now, decorated with my preferences, my history, my choices. Patricia and I were together, not perfectly, not without the friction of two independent people learning to share space, but together, choosing each other day by day. I had not spoken to Sarah again. I heard about her through Rachel. She'd left Chicago, moved to Portland, started painting again. She was in therapy, working through the issues that had driven her to destruction. She was finding something like peace, something like the self she'd been searching for. I was glad for her. In the abstract way, you can be glad for someone you no longer love in the active sense. Someone whose happiness no longer touches your own. Marcus I had not heard from at all. Dave had made good on his promise. Marcus was dead to our family, our circle, our shared history. I didn't know where he was, whether he regretted the choice that had cost him 2 friendships. I didn't think about him often. When I did, it was with distant sadness, the recognition of potential wasted, of love betrayed. Patricia and I decided to host Thanksgiving, not at the house in Royal Oak, that still felt too loaded, too full of ghosts, but at her apartment in Ann Arbor, small but warm, filled with her plants and her books and her carefully curated life. We invited Dave and Jessica from Denver. We invited Rachel from Chicago. We invited my parents from Toledo. We invited Patricia's sister from Lansing and a few colleagues from work who had no family nearby. It was not the same as the Thanksgivings of my marriage. It was louder, more chaotic, less carefully orchestrated. The turkey was adequate, not perfect. The stuffing was Patricia's recipe, different from my grandmother's, lighter and more herbal. The conversation ranged from politics to work to the shared memories we were building, the new traditions we were creating. At dinner, Dave raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said. To the family we choose and the family we're born with, and the miracle of having both. We drank, we ate, we laughed. And in the midst of it, I felt something I hadn't expected. Gratitude. Real, unforced gratitude for the year behind me. The pain that had taught me, the people who had stayed, the love that had emerged from the wreckage. After dinner, Patricia and I stood on her small balcony, looking at the Ann Arbor night, the campus lights, the distant glow of Detroit. She took my hand, her fingers warm and certain. "Are you happy?" she asked. "I am," I said, and I was. Not the happiness of ignorance, the unexamined contentment I'd had with Sarah before the fall. A deeper happiness, earned through loss and recovery, through the hard work of rebuilding. A happiness that knew its own fragility and chose to exist anyway. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Last year, the turkey, the letter, the knock on the door. Are you sad?" "Not sad, just aware. Grateful, I think, for how far I've come. For the people who helped me come this far." She leaned into me, her head on my shoulder. "I'm one of those people," she said. "I'm grateful for that, for being here, for being chosen." "You're not just one of those people," I said. "You're the reason I believed I could be chosen again, that I was worth choosing." We stood there, watching the night, while inside our friends and family celebrated the holiday that had once marked my lowest point. And I understood finally what Thanksgiving meant. Not the perfection of the meal, or the absence of conflict, or the performance of gratitude. Just the fact of gathering. The choice to be together, to share food and space and time, to acknowledge that we are alive and flawed and still capable of love. Closing note. To everyone who has stayed with this story until the end, thank you. Life rarely gives us the endings we expect, but it often gives us the endings we need. Ben's journey, from the shock of betrayal through the long winter of recovery to the spring of new beginnings, is a reminder that our lowest moments don't define us. What defines us is what we choose to build from the wreckage. If you're going through something hard right now, a breakup, a betrayal, a loss that feels too heavy to carry, know that you're not alone. The night is long, but the morning comes. The winter is cold, but the spring arrives. And sometimes, the people who help us through are the ones we least expect. Keep watching this channel for more stories that matter. Stories about real people, real pain, real hope. Stories that remind us we're all in this together, navigating the beautiful, brutal mess of being human. If this story touched you, if you saw something of yourself in Ben's journey, hit that subscribe button. Join our community of listeners who believe that stories can heal, that words matter, and that even in our darkest moments, there's a light waiting to be found. Good luck out there. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to each other. And keep showing up. Even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. Even when you can't imagine why you bother. The showing up is the victory. The rest is just details. Stay with us, subscribe, and we'll keep telling the stories that need to be told. Good luck, and we'll see you on the next one. The end.